Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 6303 Southeast 15th Avenue here in Portland. We're located down in the basement. If you're looking at the front of the house, we're currently up against the left foundation wall, left side of the house. I'm trying to go through this smaller sink drain here. We're going to try and push through, otherwise we're going to move over to the 4-inch and scope the main line of the whole house. But it looks like this drain may be too corroded down. This is servicing the kitchen sink for me to even put my camera down it. And we currently have the water turned off here so it doesn't backflow onto us. Transitions here over to 4-inch cast iron pipe, so where it wires onto the main line. Now here at about 35 feet, this is the main cleanout. We're going to move the camera over to that. All right, we're now at the 4-inch main cleanout here up against the right foundation wall. We've gone from the left side of the house all the way to the right. All the pipe we just scoped is in good shape and draining properly. We're going to zero the camera counter out right here at the base of the cleanout. And it does transition here in just a moment over to concrete pipe. And it's going to 6-inch diameter pipe. Here about 17, 18 feet, we do have roots that are starting to penetrate the pipe. It's hard to tell if that's a pipe joint. They may actually be penetrating right through the sidewall. There's a lot of aggregate rock that's showing through in the flow line here as the pipe walls are starting to get brittle. Transitions here over to 6-inch 3034 PVC pipe. Alrighty, here at 49 feet we have reached the main lateral connection. I'm going to go do locate to verify where this is at exactly, and then we're going to let the pipe drain out completely before we roll back in. And I'm going to get that, at least the root intrusion, mapped out for repair. The entire concrete section is in very rough shape at this point, so at the very least a spot repair, but this is at a point where it would be a much better option to do a full update. The rest of the line there is not too far off from needing updating anyway. Alright, located the camera head successfully. The line travels down the direct, it goes out to the street the driveway is attached to, and I'll get that street name here in a minute, but it's, anyway, it goes out where the driveway does it. The line exits out the right side of the home, goes out to the side street to the right of the house. Now the city has updated their end here. We have new pipe, which is great. It's likely because the rest of it was just as old and worn out as the concrete pipe in this one. You know, we have kind of a wonky joint here. This transition is not ideal, but I'm not seeing anything collecting over the top of it. It looks like everything is shooting through there with little issue at all. What concerns me is that you could have a joint there that could be compromised. I don't think that it is, though. This is sitting really close to a pretty large tree, and if you have an open joint next to a tree that are as old and large as these ones are out here, you'd more than likely have roots punching in through there. And I think mostly it looks that way because they didn't use a turn piece. They kind of finagled a fern co and put an angle on it, so that's kind of why it sits that way. It's not perfect, but it doesn't appear to be doing anything as far as affecting functionality. But all this concrete pipe here, we have a pretty good separated joint right here at this spot, which could be allowing water to escape. It's really hard to tell that kind of stuff unless it's just a gaping wide open joint or you're doing soil testing. But the condition overall in the concrete here is pretty dang rough. You can see, especially in certain spots where the camera gets a better angle, we've got 1/2 to 3/4 of that rock that's starting to show through. And it looks like where the roots are coming through, I think they've actually punched through the sidewall of the pipe and not at a pipe joint, which tells you that those walls are getting pretty dang thin. Now I'm going to push out here. I am going to map this line. I'm going to do markings here and there. I'm not going to do a ton of them, about every 10, 15 feet or so. Given how nicely this line drains here, I would definitely be looking into an epoxy liner. You could do this without having to dig at all, and you're going to end up with a good result at the end of it. I think not every line has that potential, but this one drains out so nicely that I think it would be a good candidate for it. So I'm going to mark right here with a white T connection. And this is going to be right out by the street curb. Alright, if you're standing in the street looking at the driveway, we are on the right side of the driveway right near the curb. A white T put down there. We are 8 feet deep. And it does look like the line just crosses right underneath the driveway, though. So when you're dealing with concrete, is the only thing that may be tricky in this circumstance is whether you can run an epoxy liner over this joint right here. I know there are some intricacies when it comes to putting turns in those epoxy liners, so I would definitely send the video over to a repair company and find out what can be done there. But given that this does run underneath concrete, it's an even better option to go the epoxy liner route because you don't have to cut and dig up concrete and replace it. but especially spots like this, and the pipe pretty much everywhere is going to start looking like all of this pretty soon. There are huge portions of those rocks that are starting to show through there, much of it. Now we're crossing underneath the driveway skirt at this point. You're right around 6 feet deep. Everything between the start and the finish of the repair, I'm just putting white dots down on the ground showing the direction the pipe runs. Anyway, here's our root intrusion, and as best I can tell here, if you look all the way around that pipe and in the flow line here, I am not seeing an obvious pipe joint. Now, when the concrete gets this worn, the roots are able to punch right through the sidewall of the pipe. That's an even better reason to do the full update. It's not the line's not functioning, but it's at the end of its lifespan. When you get roots that are punching through the sidewall of the pipe, the whole line is going to be that brittle and eggshell condition. Alrighty, we are now right up against, again, if you're looking from the street up the driveway, we're up against the left side of the driveway. The way that this line angles, it goes at a diagonal from the driveway skirt to the left side, or from one side of the driveway to the other, but it does it at a diagonal. So, I mean, in order to deal with the concrete there, you basically have to tear out the whole bottom of the driveway and driveway skirt in order to deal with that. That's why the epoxy liner, in my opinion, is a great option for this line. That's really its main purpose, is to repair lines that are underneath surfaces like that are very expensive to deal with. I would highly recommend looking into that. You can repair it however you want, but that's, in my opinion, would be a good way to go. Now it looks like we have a storm pipe tying in there. You get back here, you can see it. It's kind of hard to see once the camera drops into there. The direction that's tying in is a direction, and it's also the size of that diameter of pipe coming into there appears to be storm pipe. Generally, if you have a party line connection, you're going to have a full diameter 6-inch Y connection coming into it, and it would be coming in from a different side of the pipe. It would be coming in from the left side and not the right. We're sitting on a corner here. There's no house that would be crossed unless it's from across the street, which would be rather bizarre, in order to come over to that. So that does appear to be storm pipe there. So from right here at, we're going to call about 6 feet, 6 feet to 34 feet, I recommend a full update to the sewer line. I'm trying to push this out here so I can get a marking in the same spot as that drain connection there. But all the concrete pipe I would recommend be updated at this point. It's at the very end of its lifespan. If you let concrete go too far, if you want to be able to do that trenchless epoxy liner, if the pipe gets to the point where it starts to collapse in on itself and things like that, you lose the ability to do that. And in a circumstance like this, it will cut the repair cost in half. Now it's a good one to look into for this particular repair. All right, I put a white T marking right here when I went outside. Oh, and you know what? We've got a spot right here where it looks like it's starting to open up. Some of those leaves there are likely coming in from the storm pipe connection. But that joint right there I'm just pointing out is pretty wide open and separated. It looks like it may be opened up to the ground there. But anyway, I put a white T marking just past this transition point. It's actually very hard to locate within cast iron. It just impedes the signal a lot. So my marking here, and I'll go adjust it, but it's just barely past that transition point there. It's also right where the storm pipe ties into the line. So from that point there at about 6 feet all the way up to 34 feet, I recommend a full update. I highly recommend a rescope after the repair is done to make sure that it has been done correctly. A lot of lines get installed and they're done wrong, or they settle or something like that. You want to make sure they look good before the repair guys leave the job site. Everything else though, the cast iron pipe we scope all the way from underneath from the left side of the house to the right side. That stuff all looks good. Drains nicely. There's no debris buildup, anything like that. Well, the cast iron pipe here is functioning properly. The concrete pipe, it's still functioning to a certain extent, but again, I've already gone over it. it's at the end of its lifespan. We've got root intrusion and a significant amount of aggregate rock that's starting to show through, and a couple separated joints. It's ready to be updated.